Welcome to the World Builders Anvil, episode 316. Today, we interview C.R. Rowenson. Don't know where to start building your fantasy world?
Do you need more? Does it make sense?
Forget any worries and become a crafter of imagination.
This is the place where we will prime your mind.
Now, it's time to heat up the forge.
Break out the mithril ingots and hammer.
Welcome to the World Builders Anvil. I'm Jeffrey W. Ingram.
And I'm Michael Miller.
Let's sup from the muck of Java and build. Welcome back. As always, my name is Jeffrey W. Ingram, and here I am with the chemical engineer by day and dark overlord by night. We are pleased to introduce you to the magic man himself, an award-winning author, C.R. Rowenson. Welcome to the Anvil, C.R.
May I call you Clark or Mr. Rowenson?
Yeah, Clark's fine. C.R. Rowenson just goes on the books.
I was kind of hoping someone would stick with Dark Overlord, but okay.
People get awkward if I request that. So
makes it weird when you're walking into a ball.
Yeah. A little bit.
Okay. Well, outside of being an award-winning author and the master of many magics, tell us what else should the audience know about you?
Well, I have 2 degrees, one in chemical engineering and one in chemistry, because I hate myself and didn't get enough chemicals in 1 degree. You know, still waiting for the superpowers, though. That does not work that way, apparently. I'm also really big into martial arts. I was really heavy into that for about a decade until mental health and life. I had to put that on the back burner a little bit. And I love cute, fuzzy things like my dog, who is currently curled up on the couch with my wife. But yeah, and then I love storytelling, all kinds, RPGs, movies, video games, novels, love it all. And if it has magic, I love it more.
Just a story geek. That's awesome. And a magic.
Oh yeah.
So it's like we've known each other, even though this is really the first time we've talked, at least with mouths.
Yeah.
So I have to ask, do you feel orc or elf today?
Can I go with Wolfman? Does that work?
Yes.
You know, like
almost no one actually goes with my suggestions.
I know a couple people went with orc, but one guy said dragon. So I'm like, you know what? I got to go with my gut, Wolfman, because we can be nice, but then if we need to tear into something, we got it.
And now is this going to be like a 50s quality, like B-movie Wolfman, or full like more of a modern CGI?
I'm thinking more Underworld.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the story might not be there, but you look great. Okay.
Exactly. Character in depth, but looks awesome.
Looks awesome. Very good. So now you're a busy guy. Like I said, you're an engineer. You're writing books. You're storytelling. What's the latest work that you've been working?
So the latest work is a workbook to help people build limitations for their magic systems. Because across the board, when I'm talking with people, developing the limitations and what magic can't do seems to be what people struggle with the most. So I put together this workbook called Restrictions May Apply that walks you through several sources of inspiration and a multitude of exercises with dozens of examples to help you get moving and actually get those limitations in place on your magic system.
So it's literally like a one-stop shop. You can go here and to me, and tell me if this is the same for you, I think the restrictions are the most important part of the magic system.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the way it's built out, there's I'm not going to get too much into the details, but there's 5 chapters, and there are things that I use all the time. The first couple chapters are really useful, even if you don't have a system yet and you don't really know where to start. And
kind
then
for like finding inspiration for the system.
Yeah, it's a place where you can start with the limitation and build your system from there. Then the other 3 work much better if you already have a vague idea of, I want to do this weird nanotech bio magic, and then from there you can build the limitations off that.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, very cool. So this is actually a simpler question for you is, so when it comes to the world building part of magic, how do you link that back to the story portion? of the final thing that you deliver, whether it's a game or a novel.
Yeah. Well, for me, like it always comes back to the magic. Magic is why I got involved in all of this other stuff. Mainly because I wrote like encyclopedia entries on magic systems, and people said people wouldn't read it. So I was like, hey, I'll put it in a story, and then they'll want to read it. So the main thing for me, whether it's the magic or the world building, it's aligning those elements with your story and aligning your story with the magic and world building.
Yeah.
So I haven't done as much with the really comprehensive worlds like I know you've been doing with Garduel, because I've done much more limited building to make it match more smoothly with a specific story. I am learning more about doing that broader world where you can do dozens of stories inside it.
Within it,
but, yeah. But for me, the big thing is making sure they align with your needs.
Yeah. No, that's I think a very good tip, because there's a couple types of people I've talked to. Some are world building first people, and some are storytelling people first. And I'm a world building first person. It sounds like you are as well. And the biggest issue we have is we like the encyclopedia stuff. It's like my old favorite D&D source books were like, this is about the country of Galadriel or whatever. Make up a country. I will go through it. I want to know how much it costs to buy things. I want to know how magic works with the status system. But you learn very quickly that you're one of the few people who actually care about that level of detail.
Yeah. I do have one friend who enjoys that type of stuff, though. I gave her these encyclopedia entries of the magic systems, and she came back and she's like, "Oh, it was a real page turner." And I couldn't stop laughing. Like, you're the only person who has ever said that, Kirsten. Most people make it through maybe a page, and they're like, "This is too dense. I can't."
What were you thinking? Yeah, no, my world building inspiration comes from National Geographic. So, there we go. So, all right. So, when did you catch that bug? When did you get going and say, hey, you know what? I really like this world building thing, making, as I like to call it, line, making this stuff up for people. When did you know about that?
The magic, again, started a while back. I've loved magic for a long time, and I'm sorry, like I'm going to talk about that all of the time. But the world building specifically, I loved playing with magic and learning about it, and then I got really into building it and designing it. And then from there, that's how I actually stepped into world building, because I built up these magic systems, these powers, and then I started exploring how the cultures would be shaped around them. And there were like one specific example, I had these people who could think matter into and out of existence. Whole bunch of rules and physics involved because I'm a nerd. But with that, I was trying to think what that would do to their economy. That's where it really sparked.
Yeah.
Because if they can create gold out of nothing, your economy is wrecked.
You have no gold. Gold is not an important thing. Yeah.
Right. So that's what I focused on. I'm like, well, with how the power works, they're actually going to put a lot of stock in bone and special woods and make their coins and currency out of that instead, which everybody else will think is super primitive. And that's where it really started rolling. That and another story I want to do that involves like a generation ship, where it really starts getting into how the world and the ship works and how that ties in with the magic and the people. That's really where it started, when I started exploring the ramifications of the magic in my people's cultures.
Yeah. That's something, for me, it's the reverse. It's like I came through it from culture, through reading National Geographic is what got me. And then, of course, finding magic out there and going, oh, this would be so cool too. And then after like 10 years and you start getting a little older, you're like, but wait a second. All my magicians like go around and they chuck fireballs at people. Wouldn't it make more sense to go make someone's farm more fertile?
Or run the smelter?
Exactly. Maybe remove some manual labor, but to retain the profit for yourself. And that's kind of actually how mages in my world became sort of, at least in the culture I deal with right now. They're sort of like the future corporations of Garduel. And because it's a way of you take an input and you produce an output. And
Mhm.
this is the problem, and I do have to warn people. We both have backgrounds in engineering, so I apologize for anyone
We will
who does
try not to nerd out too hard on that.
We'll try not to nerd out too hard, but it's really fascinating.
Oh, it's so good.
But it's this idea of, like you said, it's when you have the collision of, especially a group, a society, and magic. What are the impacts? And it's like, and I kind of got to this early on doing space games. Tell me if you kind of see a crossover here too, where it's like, if I have like warp technology and I can go, really fast in any direction, is much
Mhm.
different than a space game where you have to find a way to transit from point A to point B, and
Right.
then you can maybe move quickly, but not faster than light. So is there sort of like a tie in there that you see?
Can you repeat the specific question one more time so I make sure I don't ramble too much?
Rambling this world builder's anthem, but the audience might appreciate it. So it's this idea of magic, and its effect on society is sort of the same thing as space society and the effects of faster than light travel. When you make different limitations there, it's going to have profound impacts on its source.
Yes, absolutely. The reason I wanted to ask is because I heard you mention like space tech, and I got all excited because to me,
we can go there too. Yeah.
Well, because to me, magic and technology are the same. Like when I say
Yeah.
magic system, I'm talking about literally anything that is beyond either our capability and understanding or the capability and understanding of our characters, which opens everything up. But that makes it for great parallels of comparing like the Expanse versus Star Wars, the travel technology.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on the type of system you want to go for, you want to approach it in the same with the same thought process of how is this going to change it? How can people weaponize it? What's that going to change over here? Unless you're doing really nebulous and nothing is the same twice, and then you can just be like,
and then you can do whatever. You make your interstellar magic book.
Well, even then, that needs to be a factor because if it doesn't work the same way twice,
you have to make sure it doesn't. Yeah.
Can you jump us to the star system? Probably. I don't know what's going to happen between there or when we get there.
This could be really good and easy. It could be.
Probably won't.
Well, it's like the idea of random generators, and this idea where, if it's truly random, it can be kind of boring because you might just keep hitting the same type of stuff over and over again. And then
until you don't.
Exactly. It's like, I randomly choose songs. Oh, I just heard that. I'm sorry, getting a little too geeky here. I'm going to try and step back a bit here. You're doing a better job. But I appreciate that. Now, so when you're building a story with that in mind, do you kind of think of what the themes are going to be when you start looking towards the type of limitations?
So when I'm building a magic system specifically for a story, because since my love is magic systems, I can build them in isolation, just like you can build worlds in isolation.
Yeah.
When I'm building it for a story, I've actually started trying to do an integrated iterative process where I'll do a bit on the magic and then I'll do a bit on the story.
Yeah.
And one of the main things I do there, so I don't always consider the story themes right away, but there is a point where I make sure I sit down and be like, okay, what is the vibe, the feel I want out of this short story I have in mind, and how can I use the magic to enhance that or counter that or subvert that? Really just thinking through and deciding, and that all factors into so that does affect the limitations that you build. It also affects the overall flavor of your magic, the types of magical effects you do, how ubiquitous, like all of it all feeds into one another, which I know isn't a great answer for people who are trying to do it initially.
But they should go get the workbook.
Exactly, yeah. But with the limitations, it is important to take what you know of your story and use that to shape your limitations. You don't have to have any specific element.
Yeah. It's something that I kind of look at in world building too, and part of it is, from the industrial engineer and years in information technology is, I always try and look at what's the minimum viable for what I need to know.
Right.
And then it's once I have that, I start to go, I want more information here. I want more information here and
Right.
here. And sometimes I don't know all of the answers. I have a gut to most of them, but it's really a feeling you get when you're sort of done.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have everything that you're interested in, which is sometimes a lot more than you need for the story, but you need to know more. You need to know
Right.
more than you do. Yeah. Now, okay, so, and we've already talked about you've written books, you've helped, if I remember correctly from your bio, you help lots of people with magic systems too, just because you like doing it. When did you get to that moment where you're like, I can do more with this than just world building, or sit across the table with my friends, which is a great thing to do. But when did you say I can do more than just that?
There have been a couple of points, and I know there's going to be more in the future because that's how my brain works. I have general anxiety disorder, so I just go through bouts and slumps, and occasionally I'll hit one of these moments that'll help bring me up. One of those, I have two really big ones. One is I went on the every year the Writing Excuses podcast does a writing retreat and cruise. So I saved up enough money and I got one of the tickets and I went to that and I started talking with people. And I already knew a bit that I was wanting to help people with magic systems, and just seeing things start to click, even with people that in my mind I had for some reason put on a pedestal higher than me.
Yeah.
Then being like, that's interesting. I had never considered that. Can we talk about my story? That's where it really started to click. And then again, I went to another conference last year, I think 20 Books Vegas. And again, I had the same thing where getting down and talking with people, at first they didn't understand what I was getting at. They're like, no, I'm good. I've got magic systems in all my stories. They're good. I love them. They're great. And then at some point, I just sort of saw a switch flip, and where they just kind of lit up, and they're like, oh my God, you're talking about stuff I had never considered, and talking about ways of including it that I didn't see before.
Yeah.
Those are the moments that really
you can create those touch points.
Yeah, they really picked me up and said, no, I have something worth, I have something of value to help people with. Yeah. And that's where I've really been trying to build the career off of.
And because I think one of the most magical things you can get to, and it's a struggle every time I write or I do storytelling, it's finding that moment where you get away from the exposition to world building, whether it be talking about your system or describing the building or the country or the kingdom. And there's a king with 14 generals who act as, there's a point where it's boring. And there's a point where if you can touch it in a way that's natural as part of the story that's evolving, it adds a richness to where it can bring some of the fantastical elements back to magic. Is one of my flaws with hard fantasy. I have nothing against it. I kind of like it personally because I'm a geek, but sometimes people get overwhelmed with the necessity of understanding and making it realistic, that they give away all of those things and not realize that fantasy is fantasy because people don't necessarily understand what's going on. Right. You work within a parameter, and part of the fun for the reader is trying to figure out where those limitations are. And so, that's good. That's a really good work because, it's tough for anyone. There'll be an area in the interaction that they struggle with, or multiple ones more likely. But anytime you can get help from someone in one of those spots, the more interesting and vibrant stories can become.
Yeah,
that's awesome. So tell us up to this point, and this is a very open-ended question, but what is your biggest achievement today?
That is a really tough question.
Because I'm a jerk, I don't say as a writer or as a world builder. I'm just not that nice. Yeah.
Oh boy. Shoot. That's rough. Okay. Probably there are a couple, and I need to pick one, huh? Let's see.
You can start with one, and we can always go to another one if you really
Probably one of my biggest achievements that has shaped my life massively was doing cross country in high school.
Cross country running. Okay.
Cross country running, yeah. Because I am built broad and stout.
Yeah. In Indiana, we call that corn fed.
Yes. Very well. I'm from Nebraska, so very
so
corn-fed
exactly,
farmer stock. Yeah, I was not the slender other cross-country runners, and I had asthma and allergies really bad. So a good time for me my first year was 30 minutes for a 5K, and which now that I'm older, that's also a very good time for me. But
for me, I can't watch 5K in 30 minutes at this point.
But running cross country was probably my biggest achievement because it was so hard and so not unfulfilling, but unaffirming, because I wasn't getting rewarded because I was good.
Yeah, this is the Mighty Ducks type of story where you go from that and all of a sudden you win states that same year, the first year.
Nope, never went state. For I never had that final part of the underdog story, but just that dealing with the pressure and pushing ahead despite the pain and the discomfort, and accepting that a lot of lessons came from that, understanding that my best is not going to be the same as somebody else's, and that doesn't make my best any less. And stuff like that.
I know. I remember I'd lined up against Usain Bolt in a sprint, and I thought because I was an underdog I could win, and apparently he was done, and I'm like, oh, we started? So, that's a great one, because it's I think it is the idea. I find important is this idea of being grateful. And being grateful isn't being grateful. It's easy to be grateful for, I'm very grateful for my wife. That's easy, or my son. But it's those things that you have to struggle to get. They're really the things I'm probably more grateful for, because they're more of a challenge.
And
sometimes we forget that.
They gave me a lot.
Sky basic training, it sucked, but looking back, I can enjoy it. Looking back from a distance.
in terms of writing, because this is pretty recent, I still want to throw this out there. So I was recently invited to be a speaker at a conference in Colorado. I'm going to be going to the Pikes Peak Writers Conference in April. So I'm really excited about that.
And was there an outreach to you, or is this something that you actually went for and tried to get?
I reached out to them. So I was working with Aurora Gregory, who is fantastic, and in our conversation she was saying, I think you sound like you're interested in public speaking. I think you'll be great at it. She encouraged me to start applying, so I was applying to a couple. I heard back from them. They liked all three of my pitches, so doing 2 on magic, 1 on explosives. It's going to be great.
See, I made this as an excuse to get her on the show, because I always think the first thing you have to do is ask. And that's interesting, because she has something that helps you figure out how to ask people in a way that works. So obviously, but that's really cool, though. I mean, that's really affirmation with you're in front of peers essentially now, telling them how to do something.
It's a huge. It's huge. I'm real excited.
That's
you
very
can tell
cool.
by the increase in stammering and stuttering as I.
That's awesome. Now, for looking back at your journey through this, what is one bit of advice that you wish you knew on your path to get to where you are today that you knew earlier?
Me specifically, or for storytellers in general? Me specifically, real easy. Get mental help. That sounds, I'm not just being flippant. Seriously, I have the past years, couple of years, just a little over a year ago, I was diagnosed with general anxiety disorder, major depressive disorder, and I've been dealing with medication, and all that kind of stuff has been making a world of difference as I have been getting it sorted out. A whole bunch of things that I never knew weren't normal and were holding me down until I started dealing with it. And if I could go back, I would be like, you're not broken, but you work different, and you need help figuring out how to make that work optimally.
Yeah, that's kind of the way I look at it. Is we all need help to perform things better. You know, it's like years ago I had issues with survivor skill, and so it's one of those things where you don't even realize it's there.
Right.
It's just to you, it's normal the way you
Mhm.
live. So, but if there's something that you need to improve and you can't do it yourself, which even if it's not mental health, there are lots of things. Maybe it's to be a better writer, or maybe it's
Mhm.
to speak better. Whatever it
Mhm.
is, you're going to reach these points where you need help, and to
Yeah.
be willing to go out and get them will make your life easier. So that's
And
probably
e-
really, really good.
and even if you can learn on your own, you will always learn faster with
Faster,
instruction.
yeah, that's true. Most definitely. I taught most of myself all my world building stuff over decades of wasting my time. Which the beautiful thing is now,
Not wasted. Practice.
practice. But it's like, so many, it's like right now there's so many resources at your fingertips, ways to get started.
Mhm.
Just look for them. You'll find a way to get started, and sometimes it'll take you to another person, and it gets you on that pathway. That's a really good advice for people.
Yeah.
Just because it's your mental health doesn't make it any different from the rest of your life.
Yeah. And mental health is one of my big battles because there's so many stigmas and stuff about it. And
I think it's great that as a society we're to a place now where we can access that, and it's probably not as where it needs to be, I don't think, but it's
Progress.
probably is over when I was like 20 or 10 even. It's come a long way.
absolutely.
And I'm old, so I guess that could mean lots of things.
But sorry, I'm not going to derail us on mental health stuff. That's a whole other thing.
Yeah. So tell us a quick story about a task you wish you could have started sooner in the writing part of it. Get into that. What's one thing that you would have liked to have started sooner in the writing path specifically?
This is also really easy, and that is GMing my own games. I've started doing that recently. Like I've been exploring with building one shots, and I want to get into writing game
like actual module writing. Okay.
Yeah, I've been exploring that, and I recently was able to actually start a long-running campaign where I was the GM. I wish I had started that 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Because that has really changed how I think about things. It's made it. I have to approach it different in a game than I have to in a novel, and that has opened up different ways of approaching things. I see connections in different ways.
Yeah.
That really
Your characters talk back more in real life.
What's that?
So your characters do talk back more in real life.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. They're less likely to do what you want in real life too.
That's right. And the great thing I've had is, when you have that one-on-one engagement, you're really co-creating the story of that character into your story. But the great thing is, like, if you are scared at all or struggle with feel like you don't know how to put the story together, GMing is the route to go because it forces you under fire essentially to figure out how to take those steps. So
yeah, that would have kickstarted my understanding of world building and story immensely if I had started that years ago.
Okay, so now we are approaching the dreaded Gauntlet round, and that is where you have to answer quickly the questions. So whatever comes to your mind first, spit it out there, and if it's really bad, we'll just delete it. Okay,
perfect.
So what held you back from sharing your worlds when you started?
I didn't think anything I had to say was original, and I thought the people that were currently professionals were more valid in their information than I was.
What is your favorite type of world? An alien world, an Earth-like world, or an Earth-based fantasy world?
Alien, but not too alien that I can't understand it.
Okay. What is your favorite time period for fantasy settings?
I really like pre-industrial, and I've really been wishing that I could see more primitive tribal type stuff. There's not
like pre Bronze Age kind of. Okay. All right. Okay. What is the most important habit or skill in creating a world?
Daydreaming. Absolutely daydreaming.
And what tool or tools could you not work without?
Well, for me personally, it's a space to move. I need to be physically walking or pacing or moving around. If I am stuck in a plane or in a building for days at end, my creativity really starts to be stifled.
Okay. And so what is one resource you would offer a world builder starting down a similar journey to yours?
Well, they already know about your podcast, so there's that. Honestly, I would recommend.
It'd be weird if they didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be very interesting. Honestly, I would recommend any campaign setting book. It doesn't matter what system. It doesn't matter what genre. Just any kind of setting book that walks through factions, societies, classes, all that kind of stuff. Those are gold mines.
Yes, most definitely. And now, finally, if you ended up in a world that you created, what is the first thing that you would do?
Experiment and probably giggle a lot. Because I feel like magic.
That's awesome. Because most people kind of would freak out. Most of my interviews are like, "Oh God, I'm out of here," But you're just embracing your world. Very good.
Oh, I mean, it would be bad, but the first thing I'm going to do is sit down and figure out what I have and how I can use it, and probably be very excited before I die a horrible death.
All right. So I really want to thank you very much for your interview today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, no problem. And for those of you out there who would like to know more about Clark, Facebook is a great place. He has a Facebook author page, CR Rowenson. There will be a link in the show notes for this episode. And he's always active in Reddit. So if you go to the Reddit, the R magic building thread, then I believe that's the way you use Reddit terminology.
I think so. I say r/. I don't know
r/
what other people say.
magic building. Yeah, I don't know the specifics on there. So, but there'll also be a link to that in the show notes as well too. But you can find him in both places. A really great guy to talk to, and if you want to work on magic or anything in the realm. So, thank you very much. But right now, as soon as you finish this episode, go to crrowenson.com/newsletters-4-friends. And there'll be a link in the show notes for that as well too. You go join his newsletter. You'll learn all the information coming up. If you're going to be out at Pikes Peak for the Writers Conference, make sure to attend this session. And it's the best resources we have are each other. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, once again, thank you so much, and we'll see you all next week.
All right. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you so much for listening to the World Builders Anvil.
We would love it if you would share the World Builders Anvil with 2 of your friends.
And so would they.
If they are unfamiliar with podcasts, then you get to introduce them to the wonderful world of podcasting.
Take them to Stitcher or iTunes, or best of all, just send them to our website, www.gardul.com.
That's GARDUL.com.
Now strike while the mithril's hot.